We saw Moana Pasifika make a big play this week to get themselves into the top 6. Obviously led incredibly by Ardie.
Oh, his stats were just ridiculous. Like, he had over 100 running meters. You know, he did his, kick through and scored a try, but he did a tactical kick deep as well. 2 turnovers at the breakdown. Defensively, just so sound. Any sort of loose ball, he'd jump on it. Overthrows at the line out, he would be the one that would expose it. It was just, a phenomenal experience. And I know there were a couple of penalties towards the end of the game, and if you listen to his after-match speech, he goes, I want to look at myself there, when the game is on the line, I've got to be better there. And that just shows you the world-class, and I suppose that level of intensity that he's operating at, that those are the things he remembers. He didn't want to talk about his try or anything. He's like, we need to be better there. And he's straight into, okay, what do we need to grow and improve in this bye week to be better and take on the Blues in a couple of weeks' time.
They were at key times, and Brynner, there was interesting at the end there when you thought that after the charge down and the try that Moana Pasifika were going to ice it, like they're going to go for a drop goal or they're going to really lock it down. There was a touch of panic there.
You've got to be able to stay on in terms of, your ball carry, your cleaners, and understanding what's required to slow down in that game. So knowing that they're going to have to play the Blues, they've got derby games, and if they do want to make this quarterfinal or semi-final stage, they're going to have to be able to try and, I guess, have those solutions to try and close out games. Because, I think they had the right idea. They were trying to start the game. You even saw Ardie not trying to take the contact and be able to get the 2 cleaners to be able to try and to brace and being able to not get ejected. But, Tava Nawai, who is very good at that kind of game, to be able to steal, he was able to do that. So it's a great learning, I think, from Moana to be able to, I guess, try and close out games. And you could probably go a little bit more detail what they could have done as forwards there.
I think there's a couple of things. Like, first off is just the composure to use that 5 seconds. At halfback and draw it as much time, get yourself set, ready, identify what threats there are going to be. But and I agree, I think the ball carrier did a great job. You're just holding your feet, you're letting them, you don't want to try and fight through contact and end up on the other side and there's a turnover. But unfortunately what they did is, because the ball carrier catches and drew them out, the other 2 players defensively of the Highlanders just took the 2 cleaners out. Like, they were almost just too passive. So you don't want to overachieve there and go past and isolate the player, but you also don't want to get bowled out the back and have, the player land right in front of someone like Tava Nawai. Like, it just was it was the worst thing possible. So those are probably the areas they'll look at, because if they are to make it into the finals, these games are going to come down to those moments and the ability to execute there. And they'll look back at it and just feel you could tell they'd trained it. The idea was right. It was just that execution of the cleaners, I think. And I suppose credit to the Highlanders, you could hear them yelling, take out the cleaners, take out the cleaners. So, and they just flew out and won that collision, which presented. And Tava Nawai was just hovering him behind. Like, he was there to do one thing, and it was to get that turnover.
A good time to learn the lesson, I suppose, for them. But also,
come out the right side. I think if they'd lost it, it would have been a brutal, season-defining, really.
Yeah. But from veteran campaigners, also the way that they were dealing with the ref was a little bit off. They need to learn a lesson there too in order to really get through.
Yeah, and I think they probably felt that, against the Blues in the first game, where there was they went in with the same sort of form and hype and it was going to be a tight game, but you almost get the sense with this team when they want it so much, that's when the errors creep into their game. So they've just got to keep that composure. And the beauty is they learnt the hard way against the Blues, but I think they'll take a hell of a lot of understanding around that. One, it's the ref management, but it's just because some of them, it's the senior players, as I was saying before, around that calm composure and that excitement of a Ruben Love. When you see your senior players or leaders, get a bit hot under the collar, it starts to probably rattle you a little bit if you're a younger player. And those sorts of, I suppose, that body language and that mindset and having that calm tone almost just filters through the squad. Sure, okay, we've got it under control. Our big dogs are in charge.
Considering the second half wasn't, probably what they were wanting. Look, they were highly penalised. They had 11 penalties in that second half. There's a yellow card, but what I loved about it is they just found a way. They stayed in the fight, they stayed in the grind, which I think is a massive pleasing aspect, I think, for Tana and that coach group, is they were able to stay in it for long periods of time, and especially with what was on the line. Jip, you touched on what was on the line in terms of this season-defining game for them, and to be able to get over the line, I think that's going to give them massive confidence. And I think, look, I'm telling you right now, if they continue to keep going how they are, they do a lot of good things. Well, when they get their set piece right, if they're operating at a high set piece at 91%, which is obviously possibly a bit of an Achilles heel in their lineup throughout the year, if they're able to get that right, their physicality at the breakout inside the 22, it's really hard to be able to stop. And if they're able to get that kick balance right, which I think they did really well in the first half, the Highlanders had a tactic to be able to play without the ball, and they were patient in terms of being able to have 24 kicks in that first half. If they can have that balance and being able to have their senior leaders make the right decisions and bring that group together in pressure situations, they're going to be a very tough team to beat, Joe.
13 line breaks, over 1,000 metres run, over 1,100 metres kick. Like, that's a good balance. Like, you're not overplaying. You're playing the right parts of the field. Their carry to pass ratio was at 74%. So there's still chance there. Apart from the one error at the start with the offload from Havili that led to a Highlanders try, only 11 turnovers, really accurate. It's just those areas like the penalties of the 14 penalties, 11 in the second half. But I think the most pleasing thing for them, everyone went into that game thinking the line-out's going to be a problem. And they went at 92%, their scrum went at 100%. And surprisingly, it was probably the one area, well, two areas, and I'll steal this from Jamie Joseph because he was the one who mentioned it at halftime, but the chase line, like their kicks were actually really good, the Highlanders, but you saw the intensity of their chase line in the second half really rattled the backfield. There was a lot of errors in the backfield from Moana Pasifika, so they will want to tidy up that because other teams will see that. But the line out, there 4 overthrows by the Highlanders, like they're normally the best line out in the comp. And then there are a couple of other errors. If they had got their line, like it'd be easy to say, it was against the Highlanders, but the Highlanders actually played pretty well, apart from the line out really, and a couple of kick chases. They were really efficient in their own structures. So it was a really, really strong game by both sides, and it was fitting of the occasion because they knew what was on the line.
Yeah. Now, you've talked a little bit in the last few weeks about the tap kicks, and we've seen on the weekend some different options. We've seen tap kicks. We've seen the Hurricanes, go conservative and take shots for goal. Can you elaborate, I suppose, more on those different options and why things are working for Moana Pasifika in the tap kick? Yeah,
I just think they're a great example of playing to their strength. Like it just looks like their preparation during the week is so disciplined and methodical. And what I'll say that, the reason I'll say that, and I'll talk through this first clip, is this first one is against the Highlanders back at Albany, and Ardie is the ball carrier. That is purposeful because you can see everyone tighten because they're like, well, if he's going to have a one-off carry, we're going to need about 3 of them to stop him. So it tightens. But then Matavell is running such a genuine, and I know like I get mocked online sometimes for how much I say bodies in motion, but it is a perfect example of bodies in motion. Like he's a genuine option. Ardie doesn't take the space away, so it draws the defence, and then it isolates one defender, and Tupou Ta'iloa is just hidden in behind, and boom, he just goes straight through untouched. But then if you look at the next example against the Fijian Drua, is a little bit different. Ardie and Miracle Whailangi are now out the back, and so they're purposely there to draw attention because that's the threat. Does exactly that. They pop off a short ball, they get over the game line just short, and then it's the Fijian Drua players have come so far up through the threat of Miracle and Ardie, they then turn their back on them, so that now they can't see the attack structures. Now, this is the growth of Moana Pasifika in this area because it is so easy to just go through this move. Miracle Whailangi sees that they've turned their back. He goes straight in, pick and go, try.
Yeah.
So they're reacting to, they're just reading pitches really well, but they're purposeful. Every person is in a place that it is making the defence thing. And they've scored the most tries from it. As I said, normally their line-out struggles. It didn't struggle on the weekend, but normally it does, and it's just become a real weapon. And you sort of touched on it last week. You can do it from a little bit further out. You kick to the corner and you get to that sort of 15, 20. It's quite hard to maul from there. So if you're around that 15, 20 metre, a tap play, because if you don't get over the try line, you are going to create opportunities, and they've got the attacking threats to finish that off. And you saw that variation of some of their switches down the blind side on the weekend as well. But I just think it's a really exciting play. We've had a lot of questions around innovation and why we're not seeing this. The tackle choices are starting to change around the pick and goes, around the try line to get those dropouts. Yep. I just think more teams need to look at how they can manipulate defences through this tap play, especially going into the final series, because no one has shown that much other than just a tap and run to set a ruck.
We've talked about it the whole year. If they're close to the line and you're able to pick and go off that, even if you don't score, you're going to get another penalty either way. So you can take it 3 points. You're able to play off an advantage to be able to try and go out wide, or being able to have a free swing. So yeah, I think it's been a great work with Moana Pasifika. You saw Leinster on the weekend; they did a great tap move, and I guess they've been innovative, been able to use body in motion, animation. So look, I think it's a great way to be able to score tries. And like I said, with the laws and how close you are to the line, you're going to get an advantage if you go multiple phases in that zone as well.
But it's just dropping the egos as well. Like, they know their line-out's not functioning.
Yeah.
So they're just doing, that's what I mean. Their whole game is so methodical and disciplined. And even the little grabber from Tuala to Lalomilo, they are just, they're a very well-oiled attacking machine in the 22.